What's good, you guys? It's Will here from PSYCHONAUT Visions, signing back in once again. Today making a video about my first ever bad trip. It was a 300 microgram dose of acid, and it was the most unplanned thing that I could even imagine. And why I say unplanned was because I was not even supposed to trip this day. So Alex and I went to Half Moon Bay at the beach, and we're gonna have a thing where he would trip the first day and I would trip to him, and then vice versa the second day. So we get there the first day, and Alex drops the tab of acid early in the morning, and we're just waiting for him to trip. We wait about 20 minutes, and he says, I'm feeling a little bit of a body high. I feel kind of funny. So I'm like, okay, this is probably the first signs of the psychedelic effect kicking in. But that was it. He did not trip. That was the only effect that he felt the entire time, was just this light body high that he felt. And so it was like we were sitting there for the next few hours, just confused, waiting for something to happen, frustrated and kind of just disappointed. And although we were able to enjoy our time at the beach, it was just like kind of a letdown that he didn't even trip. So we're just thinking, like, we're bored, we're thinking, what do we do? So eventually we get this idea, and we're like, maybe I should take the other tab of acid. I mean, we may as well, because I guarantee nothing's gonna happen. If that tab was a dud, then I'm assuming this one would be as well. So that's what we do. I take the other tab, and I'm like, okay, nothing's gonna happen. I literally was not even like, I forgot that I even took the tab, but then about 20 minutes in, I started feeling the same thing that Alex felt, which was a light body high. And I was telling him that, and he's just like, yeah, it's the same thing that happened to me. So I'm like, okay, cool. It's probably just my mind playing tricks on me, or just this light effect that will just go away. But little did I know that that was the actual beginning of the psychedelic trip. It started getting more and more intense. And I tried to tell Alex, like, dude, I'm actually like tripping a little bit. Things are starting to happen. I'm starting to see things in the sky, like these godlike figures in the clouds and these weird shapes and stuff in the sky. And Alex is like, no, it's just your mind playing tricks on you. You're not really tripping. So I'm like, nah, I think I'm actually tripping. I was trying to convince him, but he wasn't believing it at first. Time keeps going on, and I start to lose my sense of reality. Like, I turn around, there's this like rock and a bunch of algae on it, and people are standing on top, like painting or something, or taking pictures. And I'm looking at it, I'm just like, is that real, or is that a painting? And I was looking at the sky and stuff, and it was just like these godly figures just forming in the sky among the clouds, these numbers like in the sky as well. And I was just sitting there, and I was feeling this very euphoric feeling all throughout my body. I couldn't stop laughing, and I felt this very feminine type of like loving energy in my body. And I almost, to be honest, felt like a god. That's really how I was feeling for the first probably 2 hours of the trip. But the difference between this time of the day but compared to the beginning part of the day was that in the beginning, we were literally the only ones on the entire beach outside of maybe one or two people who walked by. But this time, I turn around and I realize this place is crowded. There's people everywhere. It is packed. It is straight, just people everywhere. And I'm like, oh shit, there's people, like, we're surrounded. But I also had to take a piss, so I'm like, I gotta get out of here because I want to take a piss. So I felt uncomfortable, and on top of that, it was cold. And I was just like, what do I do? And I started thinking these negative thoughts going through my brain. And so eventually I'm like, you know what? I say we just get out of here and, try and make our way back to the car. Eventually I go to the bathroom, and I remember it looked like the ground was rising on me and the ceiling was collapsing on me. And I was like, I gotta get the hell out of here. So I take a piss like as fast as I possibly could and just leave. And I'm like, okay, I'm definitely a lot higher than I realized, and this is probably the sign of a bad trip. So that's on top of the fact that I'm thinking negatively, just adds more onto this. And so we walked back on the trail to get back to the car, and this is where people were driving by as well. So I was thinking, like, man, everyone's looking at me. They all know I'm on acid. Like, what do I do? And I just thought, like, everyone is evil and they're looking down upon me. They're gonna call the cops. I'm gonna be arrested for this. Every type of negative thought you could imagine that you would have while on a psychedelic trip was going through my mind at the time. I was seeing these really saturated colors in the plants, which was cool, but outside of that, everything was just negative. So we get back to the car, and for a little while we're driving around because there's still a few hours before we can check into the hotel. So we're kind of driving around the roads, checking out the scenery. And the whole time I was thinking, like, what is the point of life? Why am I here? Like, is this trip gonna last forever? Am I gonna be stuck in this? I almost would rather die than be stuck in this. And I was thinking, am I gonna die? do I even know what I took? Like I was just getting scared, and I just couldn't control my thoughts. It was just, the thought loop that I was going on was just getting out of hand. And one thing that we forgot was preparation, both mentally and with food and water and sunscreen. I ran out of water a long time ago. I was so thirsty. The only food I had was like an apple and these potato chips. So Alex is gonna drive to this food market, and he goes in and picks up some snacks and some water. And it was probably about 10 to 15 minutes that he was gone. I don't know exactly. It felt like 2 hours pretty much, but this is the first time that I went on my phone, and I just wanted to look up things about bad trips, calm down. I just wanted to be able to relax and control my mind and my thoughts. So I go on and check a couple of videos out, and I only looked at the videos for about 10 seconds before I looked in the comments. And the thing was, when I was looking at the comments, I couldn't read. I couldn't make out anything that was being said in the comments. It looked like these bunch of numbers and letters jumbled up together. I was so confused. I was like, what are these people trying to say? What is going on? Considering the fact that I couldn't read, I went into my notes and just typed something about how I was feeling. And I corrected it later on if there was any mistakes grammarly or spelling mistakes that I made. But essentially what it was just, I just pray that I can make it out of this experience alive. And I just hope that no one can ever go through this experience. And this is just pain in its purest form. I was just a mess mentally in this experience. And I was just like, man, I just want to get out of here. So eventually Alice gets back, and we start to drive around for a little bit more. And to be honest, I don't remember much at this time before we checked into the hotel. But what I do remember was Alex giving me his crystals. And I could, when he gave me the crystals, I felt the energy roaming through my body, and it felt like one side, because I had the crystal in my left hand, so I felt like one side of my body was cleared of the negative energy. It was like I was cut in half, because the other side of my body just still had this negative thoughts and energy just roaming through it. So Alex had two crystals, so you'd think like, okay, put the other crystal in your other hand. So I did that, but for some reason it didn't give me the same effect. I still had that negative wave of emotions through my body, even when I put the crystal in my other hand. So like I said, I don't remember much after that until we got to the hotel. So we check into the hotel lounge, and we sit there for a little bit, and I go in and take a shower. And of course, what do you know? I see my biggest fear, a spider. It was kind of like this big, you know, it wasn't like massive or anything, but it's still, I have arachnophobia, so I get these uncomfortable feelings going through my body. And I just honestly feel like that was meant to happen, kind of, to show me my fear. I mean, I couldn't even kill it. I literally had to get Alex to kill it. I know I felt like a pussy at the time, but I was just like, you know, like this is just a mess. Like I just want to get this day over with. And he ended up killing it. So I ended up hopping in the shower, and I was just sitting there in the shower, just thinking there, seeing my naked body, just like, oh, what the hell is going on? I felt kind of uncomfortable, and you know, the lights in the bathroom, although it was a normal light, it gave up this vibrant red color to me, and it felt like a demonic room kind of feeling in a way. And when I got out of the shower, I go to the mirror and I put my hand on the fogged up mirror and like wipe it off, and I look at my face and I'm like, this is where the soul resides, but this is not the final destination. And I just kept going on that thought train that I can't even remember. I can't even fathom all the thoughts that were going on in my mind that day. But eventually I get out of the shower and I'm just laying in bed, and I finally was able to calm down for a little bit. I was like relieved and just able to breathe and just kind of enjoy the last few hours of it when I was coming down. We ended up watching a movie, ordering some food, and I was finally able to sort of just calm down the rest of the night, the rest of the day, until I tried to go to sleep. I was laying there in bed and I was already thinking too much to try and go to sleep. It was, you know, like it was just all these thought loops that were still stuck in my mind throughout the whole day. And on top of that, like I said earlier, I did not put sunscreen on. And mind you, during this day, it was overcast. This is the worst sunburn I have ever had in my life, on my legs and on my face. I had a jacket on, so my arms and most of my body was protected, but my legs, oh my God, I could just feel it, and I could feel like this sort of peeling feeling kind of on my face, and I was like, oh no, this is bad. So I ended up putting like some aloe on just before I try and go to sleep, but even that didn't help me mentally at all. I couldn't go to sleep for like the next few hours, and I was just sitting there I was crying, just bawling up in tears, just thinking, can I please just make it out of this experience alive and wake up tomorrow with this out of my system. So finally, I ended up going to sleep, probably sleep about 4 or 5 hours. Mind you, I had only slept about 4 or 5 hours the night before and only about 3 hours the night before. So I wake up and my legs, like I couldn't move out of bed. It was so bad. That was the most mentally and physically exhausted I have ever felt in my life the next day. And we were gonna stay the whole day. That's what we planned on doing before, but we decided, man, because Alex was pretty sunburned too. So we decided, man, let's just go home. Let's just forget about this and just act like this never even happened. So eventually we're just like, okay, let's just pack up, not even eat, let's just go home. And I don't even remember shit from that car ride. I was barely staying awake. I couldn't move my legs. And eventually I got home and I ended up eating breakfast and then just laying in bed all day for that day and probably for the next 3 days, because I literally could not move with the pain that was the feeling of pain just all throughout my legs. I felt horrible, man. I literally felt horrible. And eventually when I was able to get out and go outside again, I felt relieved and I felt more calmed down. My anxiety has definitely been lesser since then, because I felt like I went through living hell during that experience. And I feel like no matter what I go through, yeah, obviously I'll go through challenges in my life and certain things that will happen, certain things that I'm gonna have to deal with, but mentally nothing will compare to that unless it's another bad trip. So I'm like able to go through life with a different mindset, and I feel like I've just been able to calm myself down if I'm ever feeling anxiety or stress about certain things. So I would say that this trip has definitely helped me more than it's harmed me at the end of the day. I mean, during the trip, it was hell, but after the trip, I've come to these realizations. I'm sort of able to just focus more and not be so stressed out about certain things and just sort of live in the moment a little bit better. I remember just thinking, like, why is this happening? Why does this have to happen to me? But forever, for the longest time, I had just feared the bad trip. I wouldn't want to admit it, but before, and when I would be going into a trip, I would just fear. I would have the biggest fear of this bad trip, and I would just like, I feel like now that I've had it under my belt, I can kind of see it more and just realize that as shitty as it may be, you're gonna be just fine. Everything is gonna be just fine. You're gonna make it out alive, and you're gonna grow more as a person than you would even from a good trip, honestly. That's what I think, at least. Like, I've grown more from this trip than almost any of my other ones, at least mentally. And as shitty as it was, I'm thankful and blessed that I at least went through that, because it's shown me some of the negative aspects of myself and some things that I can work on. The jesters, basically. That was my first ever bad trip on acid. 300 micrograms were taken. If you guys are ever going through a bad trip or ever fearing a bad trip, I understand, because I've been there as well. You're gonna get anxiety about it until it really happens, but you know, don't fear it. Don't be living in fear, because whenever it happens, it will be meant to happen. Ultimately, one of the main things that I really realized was that I need to have more respect for psychedelics. I need to be more prepared going into it, both mentally and with supplies that I may need potentially. And I've kind of realized that I need to take a break as well. I'm gonna try and see if I can go, I mean, I don't know exactly how long as of right now, but I'm gonna try and see if I can go maybe about 5-6 months without, you know, a psychedelic experience, just to sort of take a break and respect them. Respect the fact that I went through that I do need a break. So yeah, to wrap it up, thank you guys for watching. Please feel free to leave a like, comment, subscribe. Let me know any bad trips you guys have had, or any good trips you guys have had, spiritual experiences you've had, anything like that on psychedelics. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Let me know any videos you guys want to see in the future, and I'm out. Will from PSYCHONAUT Visions, signing out.